Peace and blessings, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. This is Nasi Gifted and
Jojo Abanavi writes.
And this is the Future is Black podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. And this is episode 36, where we're talking about Afrofuturism in education, inspiring the next generation, where we're going to explore Afrofuturism in revolutionizing education and healthcare through the lens of AI as we dive into a transformative potential of technology to inspire Black youth, advance medical research, and dismantle systematic health disparities in underserved communities. Welcome again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let us know where you're tuning in from. So we have a whole new format, and right now we're going to get into our Black Futures Now segment, where we're going to showcase and highlight, especially since this is Women's History Month, we want to showcase and highlight individuals, pioneers, and people who have been doing the work. And today's highlight we're going to be talking about in our Black Futures Now segment is Mary McLeod Bethune, who was born in 1875 and was deceased in 1955. Leading the way in higher education, Mary McLeod Bethune set the foundation for higher education in the United States as one of the most prominent Black educators and civil rights leaders in the 20th century. Bethune, the daughter of a former enslaved parents, built her career and legacy from the ground up. Out of her 16 siblings, you heard it right, 16 siblings, she was the only child who attended school. She would walk several miles to school every day and share everything she learned with her family. Bethune worked hard to become an educator, teaching at multiple schools in the South. Inspired to build a schoolhouse of her own, she reached out to people from both African American and white communities for financial support. In 1904, she founded the Daytona Normal, an industrial institute for Negro girls. At first, only 5 Black students were enrolled in the school, but over the next decade, Bethune would help to grow the school to more than 250 Black students. The Daytona Normal Industrial Institute for Negro Girls eventually merged with the Cookman College in Daytona Beach and became known as Bethune-Cookman College. Here is where African-American students were able to pursue higher degrees. So I wanted to give her flowers, wanted to give her kudos for those individuals who are pioneers, for those who are attending Bethune-Cookman right now. It's because of the hard work and labor between an individual who wanted to not only impact her family, but impact the community around her. So that is for our Black Futures Now. And now we want to kind of tap into some of the great things that's actually happening in, when we talk about Afrofuturism and education, right? Yeah. And when we talk about Afrofuturism and education, there's a number of things that's going on. Most people don't even know that first, let's talk about education in general. So where we have some states that are actually taking out, Black studies, curriculums that are speaking to the Black history that's within the curriculum. We want to just make sure that we highlight those curriculums that are actually highlighting and, furthering the narrative, within these particular spaces and everything. So
something else that's happening right now, even with the administration, they're erasing our history. So they're erasing Tuskegee Airmen.
Oh yeah. They try to take.
So it's really more important now.
Yeah. Even more important now that we even talk about these type of topics, because 100 years from now, they'll say Michael Jordan and everyone else who had some prominent. I mean, even when you go back to Kemet, how they try to whitewash and erase the history that's there. But when you go and look at the walls, you can see that the existence of, those individuals who are melanated people are the ones who actually, created those particular spaces. But when we talk about, the actual education aspect, there was some things I wanted to, kind of highlight, within that particular space. And there was a couple of journals and articles that I was, kind of going over,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, we would talk about AI in education, but this Afro, and I know you sent me something, with
Yeah.
regards to Afrofuturism in education. Did you want to kind of touch
Oh,
on any of those?
I
Yeah,
could talk
yeah.
because I like to do my research,
Yes, definitely.
and it's important that when we're having these type of conversations, we go back to the sources
Mm-hmm.
of where they're coming from. So I came across an article called Wakanda, Opening the High School Classroom to Afrofuturism. It was written by a teacher who had a curriculum that she introduced to her high school 12th graders
Mm-hmm.
where they included Afrofuturism. And the reason why I really like this article is it calls out a framework that someone else can take and implement a similar type of curriculum
Oh,
in their own schools.
which is super powerful.
It's really powerful. Everything's grounded in Afrofuturism, where it's the intersection of imagination, technology, your future liberation. And she included a checklist for what you are looking for when you're looking for Afrofuturism.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so the first part is combining the genres, includes sci-fi, fantasy, magical realism, historical fiction, Afrocentricity, and non-Western cosmologies, and it
Mm-hmm.
often blurs the lines between reality and fantasy. Another one includes the reclamation of narratives that we've lost to colonization or oppression.
Okay.
The third is highlighting Black liberation and reflection on historical revision. The fourth one is projecting future possibilities through a Black cultural lens.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last is centers Black voices and non-Western cosmologies. So with this type of curriculum, you're empowering the students because it offers choice for the students. It's a collaborative learning experience. It ties students' lived experiences to Afrofuturistic themes. So it's a lot of healing that occurs, and
Mm-hmm.
you have a sense of justice. Also, there's an inclusive environment. So it prioritizes equity and builds a communal learning space
Yeah,
for the
because
students.
one of the things I noticed about this particular checklist, we're talking about real and relevancy, right? So within the curriculum, one of the things that's the big disconnect in education is that it's not relative to the young people's lives. So when we talk about
Right.
the Black and brown communities, um, they're learning about science, mathematics, they're learning, literature and everything. But sometimes a lot of these things don't connect to their everyday. And
Right,
then
right.
also, when we talk about education, we talk about, a holistic approach. So not only, we educate the mind, we're educating the body and the spirit, within these spaces, but, how do we use this education and in these type of curriculums to be able to not only, further our knowledge base, but be able to solve the problems that are, our community is facing. So, the social ills that we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, how do
Mm-hmm.
we be able to do those things? Not to just, be able to run away, especially in a time where, we're where they're banning Black authors, where they have the banned book list, and all of the stuff that they're doing in Florida. And now you have like an AP African American Studies course, which is looking to spark some, areas of resistance and controversy, but also to be able to fill gaps,
Yeah, yeah.
within the educational, because if you go off the traditional 100-year to 300 years of educational system that we're doing, uh, they generally tell you that Black and browns didn't do anything when we were creators of civilization. So we definitely got to do that. And one of the articles where we talk about Word in Black, and this story comes kind of from embedding Afrofuturism into curriculum. It talks about an era marked by banning books by Black authors or about Black history, where the implementation of an AP African American history course sparks sparks resistance and controversy, establishing, educational sanctuaries with the sole intent of filling in the gaps is critical, the individual Collins says, and creating learning spaces that embrace and amplify Blackness and a Black future is a visionary and a revolutionary act. So when we talk about revolutionary, when we talk about revolution in general, we talk about change. We're talking about how do we add change to what we are doing. And we're back. And when we talk about Afrofuturism, the article also talks about making Afrofuturism a lived reality, beyond the confines of the classroom. Colin states about integrating conversations, literature, film about Afrofuturism in your day-to-day lives is a part of the work parents have to do if we want Black children to be healthy and whole. And that was something that resonated really, really high with, as being a parent, as being an educator, just making sure that, our children are being able to have these conversations because, when we talk about the next generation of creators and innovators within any of these spaces, these are the individuals who want to help solve the problems. Going back to, Kemet and Nubia, where we had, pharaohs and, queens, within those particular spaces, those individuals set precedent, for the next generations and everything, and then also left their mark. When you see these monuments in Kemet and upper, lower, Egypt and everything, and that's what Kemet is for those who are, not familiar with that term. So
it's something about the parents.
Yeah, definitely about the parents.
One pushback we'll get is
what?
I work too much. When I get home, I'm too tired to even have these type of conversations. So it's very important to have a community, a circle around you that can help educate your child. It shouldn't be just left up to one person. It's really our community that needs to go back and forth beyond schools.
Beyond school and just being intentional. One of the things that, I embedded in my household was readers are leaders, right? Yeah. So my son, personal story that, he was a reluctant reader. But I found him reading graphic novels. I got his interest in reading graphic novels. And now he reads chapter books. He reads all the time now. Right. But it was a process. And I had to, make something that he didn't really want to do and make it kind of fun for him. Yeah. And that's how, we went from graphic novels to chapter books. And now, like I said, the guy's reading all the time. I remember busting in the room one day. The light is on. I know he had to go to school the next day. And I'm busting in the room, doing my father thing, like, boom, like, wow. What are you doing in here? Real aggressive. I hate to say that, but I was real aggressive. Yeah. And he looks up at me, from behind the book. He says, Dad, I'm reading. And in my mind, I said, wow, that's exactly what I wanted him to do. And, to be able to find a love for reading. And I couldn't be mad.
Yeah, yeah.
All I could say was, hey, you got school tomorrow, finish up and everything. And then, and that was pretty much it. Yeah. But, when we talk about making Afrofuturism a lived reality, that does start in the household and making sure that those first 7 years of a child's life is just super, super critical. And though that foundation, before they even get to school is something that you establish, and I know we talk about technology a lot and, we're going to be getting into AI and healthcare and all of that other stuff, but some things we got to be very intentional about. And one of them is probably turning the TV off, to let the devices go, allow the young person to be able to grow without these things. So now, it just becomes an additional tool that helps them, learn more and deeper, so we talk about the deepness and the depth of learning, versus the surface level of learning and everything.
Right.
So, that was some of the things that when we talk about the Afrofuturism curriculums, but there is a number of curriculums, and I know you came across.
A good one.
Came across a few things, within these spaces, and I just want to kind of just highlight, so Black to the Future, Words in Black, which is a series.
Yeah, that's a great one because it has newsletters. So not only does it talk about education, it also has healthcare in there as well.
And I know I had some additional notes that I wanted to kind of speak to, and I'm missing them at the time. Oh yeah, because you already spoke about the Wakanda opening up the high school, and I mean that was very super interesting and everything.
Yeah, and that was in Flint, Michigan.
Yep. Where stuff where there's need, you find that we get creative and actually start to build, because just like how in Florida where they're trying to take away all of these different things, now it's being very intentional and being able to add a number of this stuff. So we're going to switch it up. We're going to move into how this actually affects healthcare, right? So there is a whole thing with healthcare in the African diaspora, with regards to, AI use and how it's actually impacted healthcare, but also how it's also biased. So when we talk about the role of AI in Black healthcare, I want to kind of talk about some of the pros and cons, the ethical considerations, some of the case studies that's actually out there. The AI, basis bias, which happens when artificial intelligence makes an unfair, inaccurate decisions because they are learned flaws or incomplete data, right? And there is cases, within this that we've, kind of come across where, you take healthy white males and compare that to, So AI is supposed to be able to analyze data, supposed to be able to develop patterns and do all of these different things, but it's showing some biases, and that's coming from the programming, because it's, when we talk about ML, it's AI, and then it's also machine learning, right? So there's individuals who are programming the artificial, the big data, the big large language platforms, large language models, to be able to recognize, various patterns and stuff like that. But, within that, that's generally, sometimes in most healthcare, and I'm not even just talking about AI, most healthcare is based off of middle-aged white males,
Yeah.
So that's like already an embedded bias in healthcare, and they try to give you, size fits all, a solution, like if you have these symptoms, everybody gets the same thing, regardless of body type, regardless of skin type, regardless of weight, age, or any of those things, that's actually embedded into those things. But
yes.
Oh, go ahead.
So with this, it's a lot to do with the data that they're using to train the models that they're using for AI. So just to back up 1 second around AI, AI has been around.
Yes.
AI in health is not something new. More people are being exposed to AI through generative AI. But historically, AI has been involved within the healthcare. I believe they call it medical AI. And so when your data, I consider that dirty or non-complete, you get a incomplete or dirty AI results coming out of it. So it's clear here, one area where you need diversity in the data set, as well as diversity in those who are training and checking the results. Because if you have one group of people checking the results, they may not realize that the results are false because they're looking at only through their lens. From my lens, it works. Prime example is washing your hands. You will go into the sink with the sensors.
Yep.
Go in front of you like this. It won't come on. You got to flip your hand over. Then it recognizes. That's coded bias.
Yep.
And so we're seeing that in AI.
I mean, because it doesn't recognize the melanin
because no one tested it with the dark. So those are things why it's important that people who look like us are the ones creating, testing, everything, and it makes a lot of products more scalable as
I mean,
well.
yeah, I mean, and some of the, things when we talk about, AI always, I mean, there are some pros to it, but also just being able to reflect on the biases to be able to, so just speaking about, AI in Black healthcare, we just came across a Rutgers Newark article. And one of the things that it states is that most U.S. patient data comes from 3 states: California, Massachusetts, and New York. And that in itself is problematic, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you're in a rural Mississippi, they might not be able to catch a reliable train or bus, and those type of things impact, care delivery and potentially the quality of care. And that was something that the author Peyton said, within this. And then we talk about one of the solutions is greater diversity among the tech developers, like you spoke about, but also the physicians, according to the research by Peyton and her colleagues. So if you're getting your data that you're analyzing from 3 states.
Yeah.
And how many states we have again?
Yeah, it's a little biased.
Yeah. I mean, and then we talk about the inequities of healthcare when we talk about across the African diaspora because they don't have access, to medicines. One of the things that a lot of people don't know, especially on the motherland and the continent, is that they don't have enough physicians to be able to, provide health care for the number of people that are there. Not that people aren't trained or, anything, like it's just not enough. And then when we talk about that as well as the resources, we're talking about the actual, the medicines and everything else that goes into, I mean, even the quality of life, ties into so many different factors based on region and area and everything. Because, I mean, in some regions, as you know, the water is not even healthy, right? So if you're not getting healthy water, your conditions are not as quality as it needed to be. All those things factor into, the quality of healthcare and the solutions that you actually come up with. So even when you got AI analyzing this data, with this coming from these 3 states, that doesn't talk about, your Newark, New Jersey's, your Accra, Ghana, talking about the car, Senegal, or getting to Brixton, Brixton, London, and all across the African diaspora, or all across, excuse me, let me just stop saying African diaspora, all across the diaspora, so those things are definitely things that we definitely need to be able to, work on. And we don't generally kind of like talk about the problem. We also want to, kind of deal with the solutions, within in the alternatives. So even though AI is making headway and doing a lot of good, those are the cons that are actually happening within this particular space, with regards to that. And I want to thank some of the individuals who are, putting out this data. I mean, the article that I am referring to from Rutgers Newark is by Carrie Stetler. That was dated November 14th, 2024, is that the AI algorithms increasingly used to treat and diagnose patients can have biases and blind spots that could impede healthcare for Black and Latinx patients, according to research co-authored by Rutgers Newark data scientists. So, So looking at that, that's, I mean, just some of the biases that's in, kind of embedded in all of the stuff that we're looking at. And, those biases is stuff that we need to be able to, address and adapt. So if you're not into computer science, I need more individuals that get into, that's my shameless plug. I need more computer scientists, within this, because as we move forward within the AI, because AI is here to stay, I know a lot of people running from it and everything, We got to use it. It becomes a weapon or a tool. And, you're going to hear me say this in several podcasts. It's either a weapon or a tool. You can weaponize AI and all of these technologies that, everyone else is using and be far behind, or you can use it as a tool to be able to enhance what you are doing. Every platform is pretty much using some form of artificial intelligence. And if you don't think so, check your smartphone now. They have all types of, elements of that, embedded into it.
So can we talk about some pros?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, definitely talk about the pros.
Definitely going back to the motherland. So I came across an article, Transforming African Healthcare with AI, Paving the Way for Improved Health Outcomes. In it goes through some items within Africa that do need to be improved to fully support AI being spread more broadly. But one thing that you mentioned are being able to get healthcare out to people. There's limited amount of doctors.
Yep.
Some people live in rural spaces where they cannot access. So one of the ways they're looking to use AI is through telemedicine and remote patient monitoring.
Yes.
So that enhances the access to care for underserved populations. And then you also have wearable devices that send back the signals that your doctor can monitor. Another thing that they actually leveraged during COVID that helped keep the numbers down during the COVID-19 space was AI.
Yeah.
To early diagnose and then understand the treatment.
And the patterns and everything.
Yeah.
How it was spreading throughout, the various areas and regions and stuff. So, yeah. So, I mean, there is definitely
There's
some good in there. And then also just being able to address the cons. I'm the bad guy in this particular space, but
so one more is important.
Yes, go ahead.
Personalizing the medicine that you get.
Yes, because we don't want one size fits all. We don't need a one size fits all. Put some tussin on it. We don't need nobody to put some tussin on it. And that for those who are in the Black community, anytime anything goes wrong, they just say put some tussin on it, and
I thought it was drink ginger ale.
That too. Yeah, that too. Drink, or they give you a fifth or something. Give you a fifth of vodka or something to just knock you out so you could go to sleep. That type of thing. But put some tussin on it, and those were the things that allow you to be able to get better. So. And I think we are, so let us know what you think about this,
please.
When we talk about AI and, Black healthcare and, the pros and cons, I know there is a ton more pros and then there's a ton more cons. Let us know in the comments what you think. If you want to go deeper into this topic, please let us know. These just based off of your feedback, this is something that, we always want to be able to touch upon and everything. So if you need us to go deeper, because we do have the research, we could go deeper. But we wanted to kind of just make sure that we, inform the community about these various things, because a lot of people don't even know that they're using AI in healthcare, in particular Black healthcare. So I wanted to make sure that we are showcasing this and being able to leverage this technology to be able to impact our community, our direct community, accordingly. But I think it's time to transition. This is where JoJo gets her segment, throughout. So each and every week, JoJo gets a different segment. So make sure you tune in each and every week. But this week, we're going to talk about Tech Tales, the future in our hands, hands with JoJo Avanavi.
All right. Thank you. So I'm going to start off with a question.
Okay.
For you. What is the importance of this address? 17 East 126th Street in Harlem.
The importance of this address. I am not sure.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure.
So it was a location for 3 very important photos.
Oh.
That was taken.
Okay.
The first one, August 12th, 1958, was the Great Day in Harlem.
Oh, yes.
Photo with the jazz musicians.
Yes. On the steps.
Yes.
Yes.
Same plate, 1998, Great Day in Hip Hop.
Powerful.
Juneteenth, 2022, Great Day in Web 3.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So inside the Afrofuturism, a history of Black futures that I got from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, there's a great article in there by Nichols that talks about these different photos, and she also talks about, in quotes, 4 opportunities for art organizers to use this new era to ensure Black creativity, activism, and ingenuity lead the way toward a more equitable, distributed future.
Mm.
So as we're looking at like the erasure of what we've done in the past, and we need to really just digitize a lot of our culture to make sure that it's still available moving forward.
Oh yeah, we definitely got to leave our footprint, because we can't leave this all on one particular server and expect people to share it accordingly.
So the first one is dealing with decentralization.
Mm-hmm.
So decentralized power and influence. The second one is redistribution of culture, capital, and ownerships of the assets.
Mm.
The third is unearth new modes of authorship and storytelling.
Oh.
This is all leveraging Web3.
Oh, wow.
Future.
Okay.
And the fourth one is flow through digital, physical, and immersive worlds.
Wow.
So
so 3 of those things when you talk about Web3 is something
Yes.
that we're going to be showcasing in Miami, Florida at ByteCon with
Yes.
Bernard Key
Keys.
and his team out of Chicago.
Yes, the
Out of
STEM
Chicago.
City,
Yep,
the
STEM City.
metaverse.
Yep. Where they actually have ByteCon, they have ChemFest, and all of these different things where you can actually experience this in a virtual world, which is super, super powerful. But the part that, some of the immersive experiences that I've experienced, and especially in VR, is now that, you could be worlds from each other, but you can almost seem like you're in the same room, and that's kind of like what we're doing with this particular project or experience that we're going to be doing. Do we have a name for this particular thing? I know it's STEM City, but did we develop a name around that?
I right now it's like Bohemian Rooftop. We can get the official name.
Okay.
Once we get it together.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was
but-
like, did we have an official name for this and everything?
Yeah, so I was on the other day.
Yes.
You know,
Oh,
and
yeah, talk about that.
with my goggles on. But what you mentioned is very important, how you're able to meet people and network, and you can share your culture with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And they also help you learn. So if you're trying to learn how to do something, or you have an idea, you can talk to someone way across the world and share. And for us, a diaspora, we can meet in metaverse.
Yeah,
And share stories,
which
and
is super,
share our
super
culture.
powerful. When we went into online meetings, I know we had Skype back in the day, but Skype wasn't Skype wasn't what it is today. When we talk about video conferencing and all this stuff. Just being able to connect with other individuals because you had to worry about your download speeds and everything else that tapped into all of that. Most people don't have the infrastructure, but now they're leveling the playing field, because now that your smartphone can, kind of tap in, as long as you're able to get a Wi-Fi or internet connection, being at a relatively decent speed, because, everyone doesn't have that, the high speed, the 4G, now 5G, and
Yes.
networks. But just being able to have those type of things, has somewhat leveled the playing field. But the cost, and shoot, I remember using a cell phone where you had to call people on your anytime minutes, which is after 9 o'clock. That's the only time we used to really get on the phone.
Free on weekends, right?
Free on weekends and after 9. So we used to save our minutes for after 9 o'clock.
You're telling our age.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what it was. And you look at me today, smartphone, all this stuff. But I was very resistant to the cell phone, I didn't want to get into it and everything. I was talking about the RF frequencies and, all this stuff, but it's all around you. So,
you need to move on it.
Yeah, had to do something about it. But I mean, that's, let us know what you think. You're tuned into the Futures Black podcast each and every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And my name is Nasir Gifted, and this is
Jojo Abanavi Wright.
And we are talking about, we're covering a number of things, but we're talking about Afrofuturism education and how we're inspiring the next generation. We touched on AI in Black healthcare, the advancements in research and everything, and healthcare access, across the diaspora and underserved communities. So those are some of the things that we kind of talked about, but we really want to know what you think. We want to know, I mean, are we on point? I mean, you may have some varying opinions about what we're talking about, but we're just pulling this from, some of the research that we've been doing, on these particular subjects. And if there's any particular topic that we talked about today that you want us to dive deeper into, please put that in the comments and put that in the chat. We look at that and then we'll reflect on that. We're looking forward to a number of things, but one of the things that we didn't talk about, especially with healthcare, and we talk about equity and inclusion, and we talk about, leveling the playing field, is the 3D printing. So,
and drones.
Yeah, and the drone technology, which helps with the physical and capital shortages. So being able to bring medicines and supplies to various regions that doesn't have access to these things. Those are the technologies that are actually adding to, which is a pro. I got a pro. Which is adding to, these things. And I'm big on 3D printing because I know 3D printing, I know we're not talking about that right now, but when we talk about space exploration and everything, 3D printing is the forefront of the father of that, because you can't transport, you only have capacity to transport X number of materials. But if you could actually 3D print these materials, now they're doing 3D houses, structures, all the things that you could kind of 3D print now. And now they also experiment with food and stuff like that. So you can actually have a variety, so if you establish a space station or if you colonize a planet like Mars or something like that, you can actually have supplies and not wait years for the next shuttle to be able to get you additional supplies and everything.
That's interesting. It sounds kind of like conceptual art.
Yes.
Where the artist will design something, send it out to someone else, and they build it on your behalf. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. So we want to kind of make sure that we support these Afrofuturistic initiatives and advocating for equitable access to technology and healthcare within our communities, because we want to have a vision of a future where Black communities not only they thrive, they through innovation and imagination and collective action. We're talking about collective action here. We're as strong as the individuals who are bonding together. We always talk about emoja, within that particular space. Do you have any closing thoughts within this particular?
You know what I think we need?
What we need?
The future is Black worlds and metaverse.
Oh, the future is Black worlds. Oh, yeah. Now that would be powerful. That would be
where we could have meetups and book discussions.
Oh, yeah. Hey, if you would like really that, cool. let us know. We could get our man Bernard Keys on the job. Hey, Bernard, we got a job for you already. We just putting jobs out there for you. But he can actually create the world and everything. What would you think that the future's Black world should have? Right?
What would that look like?
What would that look like? Put that in the comments. I'm actually going to have something written down next week, that we could kind of talk about. But yeah, put that in the comments and everything. And if you haven't checked out our previous episodes, we touching on. And once again, JoJo got another segment coming up next week. So definitely excited about that. And we're going to talk about, some powerful stuff. So make sure you stay tuned in. I want to thank you guys for all tuning in, too. And we definitely appreciate your time, energy, and attention. But we also want you not only to, receive this information, but take this information and do something with it. Empower the community around you. We want this to be infectious. We want this information not only to, resonate with you, but we want you to spread this. So that's why we need you to like, share, and comment. It's not all about subscribe, to the channel, but we want you to be able to share this information. And then if you have any, additional information that that we haven't talked about that you would like for us to go deeper on, please make sure you put that in the comments. And I want to thank you guys all for tuning in each and every Thursday. We've been growing the channel, but we are very passionate about sharing this information, and JoJo, you did an excellent job once again.
Thank you.
And I'm
so
excited.
Did you.
And I'm excited about next week, when you do your next segment. So make sure you tune in. What is next week's topic? I ain't even going to get into it right now. Just tune in, and then you're going to know what's going on. And once again, this is the Futures Black podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Good night. Peace. Peace.